Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. This is the reference photo for the sketch that I'll be doing. I'll start off with my dip pen and some Noodler's waterproof black ink. I've got my journal sketch pad and watercolor paper, 5x8, and I'm going to do a couple reference points. Look at that tree coming out of that awning. I love that. It's my favorite part. So I'm going to do a couple of dots just to give me a little guidance for pretty much just the sign and the point of that rooftop where the awning ends. And doing 4 little dots for a circle helps me a little bit get a better circle and to judge the size of that, because that's in the forefront. That sign is the first thing you want to do because that's everything else is behind it. So here we go. Oh, yeah, already messed up. Circles are not easy, but we'll hide that a little bit for as much as we can with some paint. This is the Orange Shop. It's in Citra, Florida, kind of close to Gainesville, Florida, if you're familiar with Gainesville. I've never been to this little shop. It looks really sweet. It has been around since 1936, and it opened up for business before World War II. And people started traveling down to Florida on US Highway 301, passing through the small village of Citra. And they are famous for their citrus that they grow there. So I will have to go visit it the next time I drive up north. I love searching out these reference photos because it gives me a lot of thought for places to go and visit. For a little staycation, they call it. So this dip pen is really nice. This holder comes separate from the nib, and then you can buy different size nibs to place into the holder. This is a G size nib, and it's a really nice fine point. Get some really good detail with it, like these little light bulbs that are in the sign. But I think I'm going to purchase some more nibs just to play around. And this pen, or nib holder, excuse me, is very comfortable to hold. I'm trying to figure out if I put that on that side or that side, this side. And I still need to find a better ink holder than that little jar because every time I open it, there's ink all over the threads. It even came with a little plastic cap to put over the glass jar before you screw the top on, but that was a complete mess too when I opened it. I'm not even traveling with it. I don't even turn it upside down. I don't know how the ink gets everywhere, and then it gets all over my hands, but it washes off easily if you catch it right away. I've never let it sit long enough on my hands to find out. But I'm going to leave that car out of the sketch and just kind of figure out that building. I think there's a couple of windows behind the car. There you go. That's the top windows. Couple of windows behind the car. And then there's some bushes there, so I just use those as a filler. So putting in that palm tree that goes right into that awning. And I should have left a little opening in that trunk because that hole is right there, but we'll cover it up. I love when trees grow through things, like, or people allow a tree to grow through something. They cut out a roof for a awning and let the tree do its thing. I picked this photo because I liked the sign, and I did like that, again, that tree coming through that awning. So starting off with that sign, it kind of helps you guide you through most of everything else, which is nice. You can pencil out everything if you want to, and then just go over it with ink. But I just put a couple dots and then go in with the ink because I figure if I mess up really bad, I mean, if you mess up, just try to push through it. It'll be fine. These, like I always say, these are just for fun. But if I do mess up really bad, I'll just get a new piece of paper, start a new one. It happens. Looks better without the car. And that is a particular kind of palm tree. I'm not quite sure the name of that one, but what I'm putting in is technically called a Christmas palm tree. And I like those. Those are my favorites, so I put those in place of palm trees that I don't care for as much. Although it is not bad looking. It's kind of a cute one. I'll have to try one of those someday. Except I guess it would look like a palm tree if you make it spiky on the edges. So I'm putting in this stop sign. I wasn't sure. I was thinking about leaving it out, but I kind of like it. And then I'm thinking about putting that, there's a fence back there. And then I said, nope, bushes, more bushes. I'm not going to do the fence. Can never have too many palm trees. And it's kind of hard to see what's back there. I'm just kind of putting a little bit of a pavement area with a little grassy area and then some more bushes. There's like some cones, orange cones, but I'm not going to put those in. And then I decided to grab the pencil and just give me a little bit of a guideline for those letters, so that I have a good visual of where to place those. And the in the sign should have been over a little bit more, but it's okay. I always envy people that have a beautiful penmanship or are really good with letters. I did not take after my mother. She had beautiful penmanship. And you would think, as an artist, I would have some of that. I love old signs. I think there's a place in Vegas where you can go to this graveyard that's all old Vegas signs. I think that would be cool, especially to go and take some photos and then come home and sketch. All right, got them all in. And this will cover up that little bit of that palm tree line and then once I paint it, it will hide that a little bit more. So I've got out my watercolor paints. I'm going to start with the palm trees, mixing a little sap green and some cadmium yellow. Sometimes I'll wet the paper first, but since it's palm trees, I like to just put it in there with the brush itself instead of water first. Mixing up a little bit darker green to drop in on top of that. I know in the reference photo the greens are a lot different than what I do, but I just really like that yellowy green. So I'm gonna do that base of that with a little bit of, let's see, what is it? Burnt sienna. A little bit of burnt sienna, mix with a little bit of orange to give that shadow. And I got a nice fine tip brush, watercolor brush, to get in those details. I'm gonna pull some of that off, make it a little lighter. That camouflaged it a little bit, that boo-boo. And this is a little Payne's Gray. Using that for the rooftop and the windows, and then I was mixing up a little shadow color, but it was a little too purple for me, so I blotted that off. Decided to do the sign instead. So I mixed up a little green. I wanted to let parts of that orange dry before I started in with the, or parts of that, well, the orange of the green of that orange sign. I wanted to let that dry, and the base of that orange sign to dry, so that when I drop this bright orange in, it wasn't gonna bleed into it and mix. And it's always good to let your, after you're done doing your sketch, let that ink dry, in case you have, my lines are pretty thin, so they dry pretty fast, but if for some reason I do have a thicker ink, it's always good to let that ink dry, so before you start doing your watercolor, so you don't smudge it. So I'm gonna set the watercolor aside and start with some of my details with the pens and markers. This is a Faber-Castell 0.1. I could probably still use the dip pen for some of those details, but this is a waterproof Artist Loft marker. I'm using that for shadows. The shadows on the building from the tree and the awning and the base of the building. And then I decided to use a Tombow, which is not waterproof, but that's okay. I'm not going to be doing any more watercolor over it. I'm going to be filling in the window panes with this Tombow, because I picked it because it has a very kind of nice point. And I'm going to be putting in the individual squares. I'm going to do a little pencil work first so that I could leave the white of the paper as the window pane. You could buy a set of Tombow markers on the gray set on Amazon, and you'll get all different shades. They're really nice. They're not waterproof, but that's okay. Do it as you're finishing detail work. And this marker is getting a little bit time to toss it. It's drying out. Or not drying out, but it's all used up. I think that's an N2. And then I'm using a real fine tip brush with some white gouache paint, which is a very opaque paint, and I'm going to be putting those light bulbs in with that. And some squiggly lines to look like the lettering on the sign. This is like my favorite part right here because it just makes things, it makes your painting kind of stand out, different parts of it, gives it more depth. It's a little more shadowing. I decided that wasn't dark enough, so I want to get that a little darker. So I'm going to use the marker, the Artist Loft dark gray. I think that's a 6. I'll put the tools used in the comment below the video, or the description below the video. So I'm using that Faber-Castell again just to define those little windows a little bit more. And some little, I like those lines on the window, gives it like a shadowy feel or a glare. Getting to the end. Just going to outline those a little better. It's kind of hard to paint around them, so this way they'll, if I outline them, you can, looks a little more crisp. There. I'll do a little outline on each of those bulbs. Sometimes the marker gets kind of bogged down with the paint, even on watercolor. So here is the finished sketch, and I just did a couple extra little details. I forgot the rings on the palm tree that are coming through the awning, so I finished that, and then did put a shadow on that awning for the palm tree. Sometimes those little tiny details are a really nice finishing touch that you don't want to forget. So a lot of times when I'm done sketching, I'll look at it, and I will pretty much always see a little something I missed, and that was it. So easy fix, pop that in, and then you are all done. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you find time to sketch today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye for now.